Hey folks, it's Ben. In our continuing series of We Could Be Doing Better Things, but let's keep working on this Bonneville series of videos. Let's go ahead and work on this Bonneville some more. So what we have here is a GM radio. So we'll plug that in and see if we can actually get any tunage out of this thing. And number two, we brought our fuel pressure gauge. So we'll go ahead and test the fuel pump, which I know is bad, but we'll test it anyway, just to be sure. And then what we'll do is we'll go to the 94 Bonneville hiding in the Quonset over there, and we'll drop its tank and pull its fuel pump, test the fuel pump, and if it works, then we'll stick it in this thing, see if we can get some outage out of this. So let's get to it. Let's connect the battery up. 5/16 is what we'll need for the side post on that. Alrighty, I'll just leave that wrench right there, get the battery hooked up, and note to self, I gotta move this right here over to my van. I think there might be an engine support in the way, but what a clean way to move the wires to the coil. Of course, the coil's over here, but that's a neat way to make it look clean. It's fantastic. Anyway, so let's see if we have any power in the car. And yep. And we got a little crank on that, so that's cool. So we got the power going on. Reach up here and grab our battery. Not our battery, our radio, which doesn't fit in our van. And see if I can get these. Oh, yeah, we're not going to have any luck with this, but let's get some stabby tries and see. Oh, my wife's 87 SE, and this is an 87. Radio does plug in just fine. The issue being is it doesn't work. And it has some issues. Let's go with that. So let's go ahead and put in an accessory. And hey, AM. So this is front and rear. So we have front, right? Nothing on the front left, so that speaker is not well. Let's go to the rear, and no, but that side is good to go. So we've got some radioage. Yeah, and this thing is, that's all it does. I did plug in the antenna, but. So the radio does work, so it's worth digging around and getting a used radio maybe for it if we ever get that far. Or a really cheap online unit, whatever, something to plug in, but. Yeah, this one doesn't work, but it's close enough, so that's good news. So that works. Awesome. Let's do fuel pump now. So in our case, ooh, I already smell that. That's really bad. So we connected to our Schrader valve on our fuel rail, and we have our fuel gauge here, pressure gauge. So I'll just come over here and kick the key over. I guess I don't need to have the door open because it's not hard to roll down. Oh, this had power mirrors, but not power mirrors, but remote mirror, but the thing is gone. So let's go ahead and turn it on. That should cycle the pump. So if there's anybody home, and I don't hear anything, and I don't see anything, so I guess the smart move actually is to check the fuse, but the reality is it was parked running, so it's probably fine, and the pump is just toasted at this point. So we'll drop the tank and do that fun stuff. So moving on. Well, originally I checked the fuses that are just down here, and they're all fine, or at least the fuel related ones are fine. And then I'm like, well, let me check the relays to see how we're doing there. So there's this panel that sits on the firewall, kind of as a water shield, and we had a mouse nest in here. So yeah, okay, that's not great. Let's check wires for damage. Everything seems to be cool, but this guy is kind of like laying out here, and It gets cooked into the wire harness here, and I don't know if it's the same. Like that's a red and blue, green and blue going in, and a green and blue coming out. So we've got this pretty sus wire here that goes a lot ways. It's pretty suspicious. In terms of, it comes into this and it goes all the way down to the starter and comes all the way up and over and all the way around, all the way to this relay here, where it comes in as this guy and goes into this relay, and then we've got a vampire clamp here. So we've got some hot mess going on here. Something's not right. So, and then I'm not sure what this is yet. I'll have to look it up. I got to really read the service manual, find one online and get it. Don't know what this is yet, but it was laying in there, and it clearly should be bolted to the panel. So that's a hot mess. So instead of pulling the 94 Bonneville fuel pump out, I gotta drop it anyway if I'm gonna scrap the car. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull this tank first, and we'll check the terminals for power, because that's, if this has something to do with the fuel system and it's gone bad on us, we could be wasting our time with the 94 if it's a power issue on this car. So let's just do this car. Ugh, I forgot how much of a hot mess it was back here. Good time to get this stuff ready to go to the dump. Carpet. Yeah, let's not keep that. Or this. Or this. Or these. I wonder what that's for. I don't know. And this. Sure. And that. Let's relocate these guys so that they're maybe... Oh, I had a good time. There. And in here, let's get that out of here because I don't need you. And this can go away. What I'm looking for is, before I lift the rear of the car, is maybe I have a fuel pump access port. Oh, no, that's just the body. Okay, so nothing there. So it might be under the back seat. We probably ought to pop that anyway. See what's going on back there. So we get a little bit of more weight reduction down. No fancy connection systems here. It's your typical clamp. See the little, and there's a steel bar on your seat. So you just need to push down and in and then lift up, and it'll actually pop your seat right out. It's only held in with friction to the back, and that's that. I'll go put that in the Quonset maybe. I don't want to get rid of it, but we don't need to run it for the next long while. This brings us over to here. Oh, snacks. Is this a snack? It's a granola bar. The mices haven't gotten to it. And I'm just wondering if there's a fuel tank access port. And there is not. So we definitely have to drop the tank on this one to get to things. Hopefully there's a massive conduit running through here. No build sheet yet either. Guessing it might be damaged if it's in here, but... Yep, we got to do it the old-fashioned way. No build sheets. I want build sheets. That'd be cool, just to have, you know. I got an old abandoned car out back. I got the build sheet for it. We're butt to the sky. And one thing I noticed is, especially there's parts on this car that are gross rusty and some that are not. The chassis seems to be, the suspension's okay. The body's awful. The lines coming from the tank are also awful. So if we drop the tank, we're wrecking it. So let's be double confident that our pump is dead. Because if we have to violate that, then we're going to have to get some fuel hose because there's no way we're making it on those lines. So what we have here is our connector for the fuel pump tank, if you will. So the yellow connector actually goes up to the tank. And then this is the one that goes actually into the cab. And this is... I don't have a service manual, but I do have familiarity with GM cars. And so what we're dealing with here is we have a ground, which is our black wire. We have our fuel sender, which is power, and a return line. That way it throws a voltage at the sender, and whatever resistance it reads will be an alternate voltage, and that reports back to our gauge. And then we have our fuel pump power. So that'd be the outside line here. So you can trip the power coming for the fuel gauge is actually this one right here, the one that's, you can see on the left. The return is the middle, and then the ground is on the left here. So what we're going to do, because you can get the same reaction grounding the body versus grounding to the ground pin using the sender voltage out. So what we can do is actually come over here, and I just have to have a key turner. And so I'll grab her, and we get that 5 seconds of priming for the fuel system. So we'll see if we can get a voltage across that pin and that outer pin. And that will tell us that it is sending the 12 volts to our fuel pump to get it going. If it's not, well, then we're going to hotwire something and see if we can get this pump to do something. But first is to see if the system's actually doing what it's supposed to do, trying to get power back here. In an unexpected turn of events, there is no power back here, actually. Only the fuel level sender is actually sending any power. Everything else isn't. So that's a problem, which means power from that red terminal there isn't getting back to the fuel pump. However it's done, I don't know. I mean, it's magical land, right? No, not really. But we have a fuel relay that's not doing its thing and kicking voltage back to the pump. So what we're going to do is test the pump. So we'll do that with a battery. And we know which terminals are hot and cold. And so the yellow switch back there, or plug you see back there, goes to the pump. And so what I set up here is we've got a 12-volt battery. We have a hot side, which is our positive, and put in a 20 amp fuse just because safety, right? And then we have a hot lead here, and then we have a ground lead over here. So we're essentially just going to stuff it up and stuff the negative into that yellow plug, and then gently tap in the positive and see if we get a sound. And that's what we're looking for, is something that says, hey, look at me, I'm here. And if it is, well, at that point, we're really cooking it again, because then we're on our way. So I'm just going to sit you down on the ground. You can look at the tank, and maybe I'll cram you in here somehow, and we'll see if we can get some pump action going. I got ground in there. So let's just see if we can burn something. Here we go. That's 12 volts to the pump, so even a dry pump would be loud. We are backwards. Yep, we are, and there's 12 volts over here, so our system is working. We're just not getting anything from the pump. So, all right, let's get this tank out of here, unfortunately. I was hoping it would be easy. Removal of the tank is easy. And by easy, I mean nope. We've got 2 bolts, actually. They look like they're probably 15 or 18, probably 18s. It's held on with a pin up front, so actually the only 2 bolts holding this thing in are back here. The only issue is this. The exhaust actually goes under the tank. A significant margin. So hopefully what I'm going to do is just drop this down on the ground as best I can and drag it out the driver's side is the goal. And maybe we don't have to move this exhaust. We can slip it down under. So let's pound on these and see if we can get them out and pull the tank out. Well, we've crossed the bridge, unfortunately, and that's moving towards what's the ultimate plans for this car. Really, I just want to get it running and driving to make sure or see if it could. After that, well, it's not really insurable, so it can't really ever be legal. Not that you'd want to make it legal because it's so full of holes. But the issue I'm running into now, of course, now if this were an on-the-road car, it'd be one thing, but it's not. It's a beater, if you will, is my bolts for the straps on the fuel tanks. They have like a very flimsy retainer, and then there's a nut in the back there too. Of course, both of those have broken. And so what's happening for me is that I now have to either cut the bolt head off, but it's really tight in here, so I'm not sure how to do that, or just snip the straps off and then drop the tank. I'm thinking that this is now becoming more of a in the area type of car. You know, it was anyway, but like, I think I might have to purchase something for it, which is embarrassing. I might have to buy some fuel line, because we can intercept the fuel lines and then run that into just a plastic tank that's in the inside of the car and run it from that off a fuel pump type of thing. We still need the fuel pump and all that fun stuff, but yeah, it's gonna be one of those. If I could drop the tank perfectly and switch the pump out and put everything back up together again, which wouldn't happen well anyway, because it's not an on-the-road car, so I'm not going to care that much about it. Maybe at this point I cut my time losses and we'll drop the tank, see if we can get something up in here, and, you know, have to go to the store sometime in the next week or two, get some fuel line, and we'll run it to a separate pump in a little donkey tank or something like that. Mule tank, whatever you call those. So I think that's what we're going to do now, is I'm going to come and cut the straps out, and it's easier off the front than it is in the back to drop the tank so we can get to the fuel pump and get a final look at that. And I think we'll abandon the fuel tank idea and go to a fuel cell, essentially, is what we're talking about here. Get a screwdriver and take out these, well, we can flex on them a little bit here. You guys can sit with me for a sec. So we got our pump. I brought my battery back over here because I'm like, okay, this is for sure the ground and this is for sure the positive. Did I cook everything up right? Because I don't think I actually tried to reverse them. But yeah, it still doesn't work. So I'm happy with that because we've done a lot of damage here. That would have been a shame if I hadn't have needed to do that. Now, if you've never taken a GM tank off before, it's fairly easy. Clean it up because everything you're gonna touch here is gonna go in the tank. The tank itself is actually bad, so let's ignore that. Boy, all you need is a screwdriver and a hammer. And there is a ring that's floating. This is the module here that's all these pipes that go to connect to the side pipes there. That's all part of the sending unit. So you have your vent, your send, and your return. And so this ring here that kind of floats in the middle is exactly what holds the tank and that together. And it's got little catch here, and you have to take a screwdriver, maybe not this nice one, but a lesser nice one. Here it is. And you just have to knock it out. And then look out for the float on the pump. There's our fuel sock and our pump float. There we go. So let that drain out. And it all sits in a plastic baffle in the tank. So this is our pump. This is your fuel level sender that goes up and down. And this is a pulsator, which is used to quiet the system, so it's not so pump soundy. And typically you can buy just the pump and replace it and put all this back in, but more commonly you buy the whole assembly assembled, and that's the way to go. So our pump has, the sock is actually in fairly nice shape, I'll be honest with you. I've seen a lot worse. This is also sound insulation that has died over time. Why would you use something that couldn't last in a car over 50 years? So the sound insulation on that pump is toast. Here's our power leads. Looks like we're sharing a common ground again with the sender unit here. So our gray wire coming up here to this switch is what's going on, and there's another connector up here to the top connector, so we should be able to remove that. Yeah, it's just got the metal clip on it. I still am holding out. This pump's gonna work for me. Okay, I'm gonna call it today because I gotta pick up all my tools and stuff here and put the car back down on the ground. So we didn't get it started, didn't even get the fuel system going, but we do have the fuel pump now. So we can kind of dink around with this a little bit, see if we can get it to spin up. And if that's the case, then we can totally connect the hose to this and totally shoot that straight to the engine. And the pressure relief valve, the fuel pressure regulator will control our pressure for the fuel rail, and then we'll just send everything back to the tank that we suck out of. So cool. I won't end it here, but I will end this part here, and we'll go into the shop and see if we can get this thing to spin up. Alrighty, back in the shop. Here's our pump and our battery setup here. And no matter which way I put it, all I get is arcing across. These actually technically are also to each terminal. I only get arcing. So this pump unfortunately is dead. So we're gonna have to hope the other Bonneville pump works. And we do have this assembly, but we gotta buy some other stuff too. We'll have to buy a bucket and some fuel line, but now I'll know what size to reference, so I can cut off a piece of this and be like, hey, parts guy, I need fuel line that fits on this. So that's where we are with the Bonneville. If you have any, we're gonna keep the fuel sock though. I think we can use that if we can get one of these pumps to work. If you have any comments or questions, leave them. Please subscribe to my channel, Turbo Tour 31, for the enduring saga of the Bonneville. And thank you for watching, I appreciate it. I got 20 seconds to kill while I run the cards. Daughter's learning how to walk on stilts for Halloween. All the liquids, and what a hot mess this is. I've been working on cleaning things out, and it all comes down into the bottom. And yeah, yoinks.